Welcome to Motoroids. My name is Amit and this is the Citroen C3, the turbo variant. I have done a very detailed review of this car when we were in Goa, when this car was first introduced during the media drives, and I was absolutely impressed with the performance of this machine. This is a turbo variant, by the way, and today I'm going to tell you 10 things which make this car really special and 5 things which are a bit of a downer. And I couldn't have started with anything else but the performance. The 1.2 litre turbo petrol engine 3-cylinder unit that this car has is an absolute stunner, and of all the cars we have within these segments, in the hatchback segment where this car resides, although it comes across as a bit of a cross between a hatchback and a subcompact SUV, but this essentially is a hatchback which looks a little bit different. Within that segment, this offers the absolute best performance. The power output here is 110 PS and the peak torque is segment busting 190 Newton meters, and all of that firepower enables this car to accelerate from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 10 seconds flat. Now, to put that in perspective, I was driving the Mahindra XUV300 1.2 Turbo Sport yesterday, and that car by itself is pretty powerful, but that car also does its 0 to 100 in about 11 seconds, so still 1 second slower than this. So the torque and the power here is an absolute stunner. There's the Hyundai Grand i10 Neos Turbo also that you probably can compare with this car in terms of performance, and to be completely honest, that car also matches it in terms of its 0 to 100 timing, but this car is bigger, and somehow with its better torque in the mid revs it feels stronger to me. And I really think that if you really have to talk about performance, the C3 really is a car that you should be looking at. The fuel efficiency is pretty good too at 19 kmpl official number, and you'll get very respectable figures within the city and on the highway as well. So the performance is the first virtue of this car. Now, the second amazing thing about the Citroen C3 is, of course, its looks. It's a French car, and while it's not exactly a premium car, but boy, does it look good. It's bold like a Citroen should be, and every which way you look at this car, it does make a statement. Be it that integrated Citroen grille, the twin DRLs, the beautifully done headlights, these accents on the front, on the mirrors, on the roof, or on the sides, this car does stand out, and if you want to stand out from the crowd, the Citroen C3 will enable you to do that. Now, the third amazing thing about the Citroen C3 are its dimensions, and while it's supposed to be a hatchback, it is a bit of a cross between a hatchback and a compact SUV. And if you compare it with its immediate rivals, I'm talking specifically about the turbo variant here. You have the Grand i10 Neos Turbo and the Tata Altroz Turbo, and in terms of dimensions, it definitely does ace them, and it does look the part. It doesn't look as much a hatch as it does an SUV, and if you really compare the dimensions, it's a whopping 176 mm longer than the i10 Turbo Neos in terms of length. In terms of width, it's 53 mm longer. In terms of height, it's 66 mm longer, and in terms of wheelbase also, it's 90 mm longer. It's a segment busting kind of a size, although if you compare it with the Tata Altroz, the length is very slightly less, so is the width, but in terms of the wheelbase, which really defines the cabin, the C3 Turbo has the segment leading wheelbase of 2540 mm, which is about 40 mm more than even the Altroz. Now, the fourth amazing thing about the Citroen C3 is its build quality, and this is something that I mentioned when I drove this car first as well. There is a sense of solidity to this car, and while it's simple, it's not technologically very advanced, but when you sit inside the car, you can really feel that it's built solid. It feels like it's built to last. It has a very planted, solid feel to it. The doors close with reassurance, and it really radiates a solid, old-worldly, built-to-last feel when you're behind the steering wheel as well as anywhere else in the cabin. Now, by virtue of its dimensions, this car also offers a ton of space inside, not just for the front and rear occupants, but also for the luggage. So the boot also is very capacious. The entry is very easy, and as you can see, there is ample headroom, not just up front, but at the rear as well. There is ample thigh support, and I'll show you how much space we have at the rear as well. Just like the front, the entry here is easy as well, and there is tons and tons of headroom. So even if you are a 6-footer, there is ample room, and since it is so wide, 3 can sit abreast for medium journeys. So in terms of space, this car really aces the other cars in the segment. Also, the boot here has more capacity than most other cars in the segment, and as you can see, you have plenty of space for a family of 4 to go out for a short holiday. In terms of sheer numbers, the boot space here is 315 liters, which is a whopping 55 liters more than the Grand i10 Neos, although it's slightly less than the Tata Altros. But I really believe that for a small family, this boot space is sufficient, although I would have wanted this car to have a 60-40 split seat so that there was some adjustment possible. Now, the sixth amazing thing, apart from the space that you have for the occupants and in the boot, the storage spaces, the various different cubby holes that you have are also worth a mention. As you can see, you have a very capacious door panel here where you can put a big water bottle along with some space to spare. You also get this very thoughtfully designed 2-tier space where you can put a lot of stuff. So on the top tier you can put your wallet, on the lower tier you can put your cell phone. You have these 2 cup holders, so there is a lot of space here. Then you have some more space to spare here, and then if you need some more space, you can really slot your small articles in this nicely done recess here, which also has this beautiful silver inlay, and you have a water bottle holder here as well. Now if you look at the glove box, this is also fairly capacious, and all in all, it's a very nicely, very thoughtfully designed space where you have a lot of cubby holes and storage spaces. And generally, I sometimes fret when I don't find spaces to throw my stuff around, because that's something very important, especially if you're driving alone. And in that sense, the Citroen C3 really excels. Now, for a country like India, you need a car that has at least some go-anywhere capability, and in that sense, I think Citroen have studied the market well and have done a very good job with the ground clearance and the ability of this car to go off the beaten trail. I took this car to a reasonably difficult terrain in Goa when I first tested it, and today also, as you can see, the tires are quite muddy. We brought it here in a bird sanctuary where the approach road was really bad. It was full of mud and there were some really deep puddles, but this car had no problems whatsoever in getting us here with a ground clearance of about 180 mm, which is about as high as you can get in a hatchback. This car will take you off the beaten trail with confidence and without scraping its belly. It takes in its stride bad bumps and speed breakers very, very well, and is very well suited for the Indian conditions. Now, just like its stunning design, another very French thing is the ride quality, and we have seen in the past that the French car makers have offered us some of the best riding cars, including the Duster. And of course, we saw the beautiful Citroen C5 also exposed us to some beautiful ride quality that we had not experienced before. And the Citroen C3 is no different. It has the segment leading ride quality. It is one of the most comfortable cars in the segment, and anyone who has taken a test ride of this beautiful car will vouch for that statement. It is very, very beautifully set up. The suspension soaks up all the bumps that you have on the road, and even when you're off the road, you don't feel much inside the cabin. So the ride quality is fantastic, and the stability of the car also, be it in a straight line or around bends, is beautifully managed. So the ride and handling also, although it's not a sporty car, but the handling also of this car is pretty good going by the hatchback standards. Well, truth be told, there are a lot of features that are missing in this car, and if you really go to see, I would have wanted these mirrors to be electric, and there should have been a rear wiper with a defogger. But when it comes to a touchscreen, Citroen have really gone out of the way and equipped this car with this really huge 10-inch touchscreen, which adds to the premium quotient of the interior. It looks very funky. This contrasting orange looks really nice, and this 10-inch screen makes the interior look very nice and high-tech, although, as I mentioned, some important features are missing. In fact, there isn't even a tachometer on the instrument console, but as a ninth highlight, I had to mention this funky interior and the 10-inch touchscreen. Now, while this car does stand out for its styling and it does have quite a few unique bits inside, there are quite a few of you who might complain that it doesn't have certain features that you would probably want, and to address that, there are quite a few accessory packs that Citroen is offering, and that is this car's 10th highlight, because within those accessory packs you get a lot of stylistic elements as well as functionalities which you won't otherwise get on the standard equipment, and those accessory packs come across as a unique proposition for this car. For example, the Elegance pack, which is for about 10,000 rupees, gets you a lot of visual updates like chrome window belt line, chrome surround for fog lamps, chrome insert on the rear bumper, body side moldings with chrome inserts. The Energy pack for about 8,000 rupees would get you skid plate, front and rear wheel arch cladding for live variant, spoiler, weather deflector, etc. And the Convenience pack will get you license plate frame, velvet seat belt cushion, mud flaps, cabin floor and luggage mats. And in terms of feature accessories, you can also get front fog lamps, rear parcel tray, illuminated sill plates, cabin sun blinds, front and rear sun blinds. You can get a front camera as a dash cam, air purifier, tire inflator, USB double chargers, a car bin, neck rest pillows and rear seat pillows, etc. Now, since all of these accessories are offered as a pack, they come for a lesser price, and for those of you who want to add some additional visual or functional features to your car, these accessory packs go a long way in enhancing the value. So those were the good bits, but I am not here to eulogize this car. I am not here to talk only about the positives of this car, and there are some clear negatives also which Citroen as a company needs to address, and there are some downsides also to this beautiful looking machines. So let's now talk about the things which are not so good about the Citroen C3. Now, as I first mentioned, there are some features which are missing on this car, and while there may be features which are luxury and which are good to have, but they are not need to have. But in that sense, there are two features that I want to talk about that this car could probably have had, and those are electric mirrors. This car comes with manual mirrors, and while I personally don't mind adjusting my mirrors manually, but in today's day and age that has become a very basic feature, and that's a very essential feature to miss out on. Also, from a safety perspective, I think this car should have come with rear wash and wipe and defogger, and this is the first flaw of this car. These two features should have been included. Now, while the second flaw isn't exactly a flaw, because this car actually comes with a 6-speed transmission, the other cars in the segment have only a 5-speed transmission. So in terms of the manual offering, this car offers a better transmission than the other manual options, but it doesn't offer the option of an automatic or even an AMT. And for those of you who want to be driving in chock-a-block city conditions where you don't want to be using the clutch or the gear lever, that is a bit of a downer, and had there been an AMT, it would really have been nice. So the lack of an AMT or an automatic is the second downside. Now, as we all know that at this point in time, the prices of cars are going through the roof, and so is the price of the fuel. And in such a scenario, a lot of people are moving towards CNG as a fuel option, and this car does not offer CNG as an option. For this is essentially a value car, and had that option been there, it would really have been wonderful, because people who buy this for the sake of value would have found additional value with the option of a CNG. But unfortunately, this car doesn't offer CNG as an option. And I'm mentioning this only because this is the turbo variant and can satisfy some of you who really want to have a performance hatch at hand, is that it doesn't have a tachometer. And for the turbo variant at least, I would have wanted this car to have a tacho so that I could articulate better on what this car does at what RPMs, but not purely from a journalistic perspective, also from a user's perspective. If you want to be driving a car fast, you appreciate it if there is a tacho, and this car does not have it. Now, while the performance is fantastic, a downside of this car is that the steering is somewhat dead. Now, I'm not complaining about the ride quality or the handling. It is a pretty stable car in a straight line. Around corners also it's pretty dependable, but the steering, although it has good amount of weight, is pretty dead. It really doesn't have any feeling, and that's a bit of a downer because everything else is fantastic. The steering could probably have had more life to it, and that's one of the negatives of this car. Now, there are two ways to look at value in a car. There are some cars which are really solidly built and a lot of money goes there. Metal is spent there, good engineering is expended there, the manufacturing process is more complicated. And in the modern times, we have started to look at value from a perspective where the more the number of gadgets a car has, the more value we associate with it. Now from a good old world perspective, I really think that this car is good value because it is built well. It really feels solid and money has been spent on it where it really matters from a mechanical perspective. And I personally believe that this is a really well built car. A few more feature additions would have added value to it, but otherwise it's a very well built car which can be a lot of fun. And for those of you who value good solid build, you're going to love this car for its comfort, for its dimensions, and for all that it offers. Now in terms of pricing, it is pretty strong too at 8.15 lakh rupees ex showroom, as opposed to the Grand i10 Neos which retails for 8,05,000 rupees. I think for 10,000 rupees extra you get a lot more car in terms of the space that you get, the better ride quality and the better engine. And if you really compare it with the Altroz, the price there for the top end variant is 9.55 lakh rupees. However, you don't have the kind of refinement that you have here. You have more features there though, and probably some would argue that the crash test rating of the Altroz is also a plus, but I personally believe that the C3 is a better built car and is generally better in terms of performance and is better to drive. So that's that, guys. This car has a lot going for it. It's a good solid mechanical package, looks good, rides well, has fantastic performance, but a few small things let it down. But if you're looking to buy a car in this segment, I think this is a very strong contender. And if you have a Citroen showroom close by, you should definitely go take a test drive for this car, because the service and spares of this car will also be readily available to you. I really hope that I was able to tell you a few really interesting things about this car in this video. If you liked it, hit that like button, subscribe to Motoroids, and until next time, this is Amit Changani signing off. Rev hard, rev free, and drive safe.